there was recently Discovery Plus did a 3-part series, I believe it is, but a 3-part series called Hillsong, a Mega Church Exposed. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit with you because not even so much to intricately pick apart the documentary or anything like that, but you've been talking about Hillsong a lot longer before it ever became cool. And you and I both, we're first and foremost, we're Christians. And when it comes to judging these kinds of things, I just am skeptical. I heard that the documentary did a good job in many regards, but I am always skeptical of non-Christians, of pagans, rendering judgments about spiritual things, right? Same kind of thing. Now, this might offend some of my listeners, but Christianity Today, they did the rise and fall of Mars Hill. And I'll make my statement again. I'm skeptical when pagans render judgments about spiritual things. I would prefer for a biblically orthodox, sound, courageous group of Christians to give a fair shake to. I think Mark Driscoll made some real mistakes, but I don't want the feminist at Christianity Today talking about how Mark Driscoll has toxic masculinity. You know what I mean? It's just like, who are you to? So the basis for all of this that I'm thinking about is 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 4. It says, when one of you has a grievance against another, does he dare go to law before the unrighteous instead of the saints? Or do you know that the saints will judge the world? And if the world is to be judged by you, the saints, are you incompetent to try these smaller, trivial cases? Do you not know that we are to judge angels? How much more then matters pertaining to this life? So if you have such cases, why do you lay them before those who have no standing in the church? And so all that being said, I'm going to give it to you, but my point is, Paul, he certainly condemns the carnal, fleshly desire of lawsuits and always being about who's right and who's wrong. So he has that judgment to render to the Corinthians, saying, why not rather just drop it? Why not rather be wronged? But that's not the only thing that he condemns, is the fleshly, carnal desire for the self. He also condemns going before the unbeliever to render judgments about spiritual things. And so it's not that he's just universally against courts. He's against pagan courts. We believe in ecclesiastical courts. We believe in church discipline being rendered by an ecclesiastical court, exercising the keys of the kingdom and rendering righteous judgments. And so all that back to the Hillsong, a Mega Church Exposed, this documentary series that's been getting a lot of attention, done by Discovery Plus. I'm sure in God's common grace there were many good things, but I think there are other things that we could address as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely, Joel. Well, it's really sad. It's a sad commentary that it took something like Discovery Plus, which is purely secular, to wake professing Christians up to the reality of Hillsong. You're right. I mean, I typically don't care much what a secular organization has to say about any church unless it just deals with flat out provable fraud. But even secular people know enough about Christianity to know that adultery is sinful according to the Bible. And that's what we as Christians teach, rightly so. And they know enough to know that. And so when there's a sex scandal involving the quote unquote church, they're all in. They jump in with both feet, and they're fully committed to it. Not because Discovery Plus doesn't care, nor do they even understand the nuances of Hillsong's theology as far as them being word of faith and prosperity gospel and, positive confession and, seeker sensitive and all that. They don't know any of that. They don't understand it. And I don't care to hear anything they have to say about those issues. But they know enough to know that Christians believe that adultery is sinful. And they love to expose Christians as hypocrites. So there was nothing altruistic about Discovery Plus doing this. They just wanted to paint Christians in general in a bad light. But as I said, it's really unfortunate that it took something like this to get so many professing Christians to wake up to Hillsong. I mean, the theological problems have been there ever since its inception. And it is a truly sad commentary on the church, especially churches in our theological circles, Joel, that claim to be conservative and have a high view of the sovereignty of God, high view of Scripture, that have been singing Hillsong music for years, and they know who they are, and they sing their music anyway. That's the real tragedy here.
I agree. Yep, a lot of people probably have some egg on their face in this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you the kind of blowback I got when I did that interview with Todd Friel a few years ago at the G3 conference. We did a little interview on Bethel and Hillsong, and somehow it just went viral. And I haven't looked recently, but I know it's got somewhere between 2 and 3 million views, and so it really went out there and made the rounds, threw a big rock in the pond, I guess you could say. But the blowback I got was just astonishing. And even from some people who claim to be, Calvinists, to use that term. And so I guess now they're finally seeing that, well, maybe there is a problem with Hillsong.
Yeah.
Sad commentary that it takes a secular news organization to bring Christians to that understanding when it should have been just obvious to anyone.
Right. And that principle, that reality that you're espousing is not unique to the particular issue of Hillsong or biblical churches singing Hillsong music. What you're describing is really just the reality of being a leader, right? So Jesus says, your forefathers always killed the prophets. Was there ever a prophet they didn't kill? And then, but what happens though is, right, the next generation, they all claim to we love Moses, we love Abraham, we love Jeremiah, we love Isaiah. Those are our guys. It's like, those aren't your guys. Hindsight is a luxury. Hindsight is 20/20, right? Everybody's so concerned about being on the right side of history. Well, it's really easy to read off the script once the history's already written and everyone's already decided who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, and then you just paint yourself, of course I'm one of the good guys. But what Jesus is saying is, no, you're not, because here I am, the capital P prophet, the prophet of all prophets. I'm standing before you, and you want to do with me exactly what your fathers did with Jeremiah and what your fathers did with just go down the list. And so my point is, you getting blowback and pushback with Todd Friel when you did that, that little piece on Hillsong and not singing their music. I think a lot of people these days, and it's kind of what you were saying, but a lot of people, at least in our camp, they would say that as though it's common knowledge. Absolutely common. Nobody would really nobody's going to take offense at that. I mean, maybe a few people, but most people listening to us right now, most of the people in my audience and your audience, they're going to be, oh yeah, of course. But I do think it's important that we honor leaders, prophets, leaders, lowercase p, but those who actually lead the way. Part of the reason why it's common knowledge today, and I can say something like that today and not get a lot of blowback, is because you 3-4 years ago, whenever it was, got a lot of blowback. Same with critical race theory, right? I mean, now, like even the world, aside from Christians, even the world is like, this is madness. This is insane. Like, people are talking, there's probably going to be a red tidal wave, come November, in the voting booths and all these kinds of things. And I believe it. I think that's probably because people are just completely fed up, and everyone, says CRT, just rattling off that phrase, CRT and intersectionality and wokeology, as though we've been studying, all this stuff for years, when the reality is, no, nobody had a clue what any of this was. A few people led the way and they didn't get cheers and applause. Nobody was throwing parades. Everybody, they were having to fight on both sides, right? So they're fighting the enemy, and then they're fighting Christians behind them, stabbing them in the back, accusing them of being harsh, and all these kinds of things, and divisive. And then finally, the Lord in His mercy and providence, but that's always how it is. It's that's extreme. You're harsh. You're intolerant, and then it becomes, oh well, maybe there's something to that, and then it's like, oh, this is common knowledge. We all knew it all along. Yeah, and that just seems to be the way it goes.
It absolutely is. Yeah, it absolutely is. And the issues with Bethel and Hillsong, This is not high level discernment kind of stuff here. I mean, this is, I mean, they've got a multiple decades long track record of bad theology, of bad ecclesiology, bad pneumatology. I mean, bad everythingology related to anything to the church. And they've got a long track record of this. They're notorious false prophets. They endorse false teachers, have known false teachers speak at their conferences. They cross-pollinate with one another. This is not high-level discernment here. So this should be. So it's astonishing. You know, I'm not surprised when a typical kind of mealy-mouthed, wishy-washy, like a Southern Baptist church is very Arminian and has 20-minute sermons and, you know, no church discipline. I'm not surprised when that kind of a genre of a church plays Bethel and Hillsong. Doesn't surprise me at all. What did surprise me was quite disheartening to see so many people in our circles defend Bethel and Hillsong. And like, really? You know? So, and I don't, let me say this. I take absolutely no joy in what has happened. Well, I actually can't say. I started to say I take no joy in what's happened to Hillsong. That's not entirely true. I do in this sense that a false church has been finally exposed for being what it is, a false church. So I guess I do take joy in that. I don't rejoice in sin, which their whole leadership is just rife with and eaten up with. I don't take joy in that. But I guess I do take joy that people are finally starting to see what this movement is, what this structure is. It's not a church. It's not a church. It's a goat farm. It's not a church.
Yep. It's a goat farm. Wait. Real quick, before you go, do me a favor. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell so you'll be notified with all our new content as it comes out on a daily basis. And if you're willing to support this ministry, you can do so by going to rightresponseministries.com/donate. Thanks so much. God bless.